What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Chef, and you already know what time it is. We are back for episode number 35 of the YAK pod. Now, free agency has slowed down just a little bit, so we are going to take a deeper dive into the players that the Lions have signed and traded for. Now, before we do that, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and subscribe. Hit that little button down there. Also, turn on your notifications. Share the stream, share the pod, and let everybody know, because when you do that, it helps the algorithm get on my side. And if you are enjoying this content, then you want the algorithm on my side. Now let's get to it. As you know, unless you've been living under a rock, the Lions have officially signed DJ Reader. They have officially signed Carlton Davis. They have officially signed Amik Robinson. Now, we know that they signed Graham Glasgow first and all these things, but we know who Graham Glasgow is. He's been our guy. He was here last year. Not really too much need to get into that. It's an important signing, and we got it done. Brad Holmes did what he needed to do there. But did you know that DJ Reader was a fan of the Lions during last year's playoff run? That's right, DJ Reader jumped on the bandwagon of the Detroit Lions. There's a series of tweets that he was complimenting the team, talking about how well Jared Goff was playing, just letting us know he wanted us to win, all these things. And then he pops up in Detroit. Now, he said he kind of wanted to go back to Cincinnati because, he had been there and all these things. But he pops up, his agent starts talking to him about it, during the playoff run. And he starts realizing that it's a reality. It could happen. And we were all worried about him coming to Detroit and not being allowed to leave. Well, he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave when he came to Detroit. He already wanted to be here. And that's something that we're not used to in Detroit as fans of the Detroit Lions. And there are some of us who can't get used to it, or who seem like they don't want to get used to it. Those are the SOL fans. And I'm not going to go into a whole spiel about that type of thing. I mean, I've heard crazy things. There's somebody told us that the Lions won't win 10 games next year because of the Bears, the moves that the Bears made, the moves that the Packers made, the Vikings. What did the Vikings even do? Okay, Vikings may have a first round quarterback, with that trade that they made with the Texans yesterday. They might have a first round quarterback. They might trade up to number 5 and jump ahead of the Giants, who are looking also for a quarterback. They might do that. They might get a Drake May. They might get a Jaden Daniels. They might get a JJ McCarthy. Those guys are called rookies, though. The Bears have done all these different things, and they don't have an offensive line. There wasn't a lot of protection for Justin Fields, and Justin Fields was having to run for his life. Justin Fields is probably not going to be the quarterback in Chicago. We don't know where Justin Fields will be, but it's probably going to be Caleb Williams. So that is another rookie. We're talking about it being in the division with 3 rookie quarterbacks. Now, rookie quarterbacks aren't what they used to be as far as probably not going to succeed rookie year, need to sit behind someone and learn for a year or two. These guys are more pro ready, it seems, coming out of college these days, but I am not worried as a Lions fan. I'm not worried because Brad Holmes is my GM. And there's no better cooking than that down Holmes cooking. Shout out to my guy, Cy, who let me use that phrase, down Holmes cooking. I love that phrase because that's just exactly what we are privy to. That's exactly what's happening with us right now. These moves that have been made are really major moves for our team. Louis Riddick. Everybody knows Louis Riddick. Everybody respects Louis Riddick. Louis Riddick responded to a tweet that said, see Lions as an example of team building. And he referred to the fact that, everybody lost their stuff last year when the Detroit Lions drafted the electrician Jahmyr Gibbs, 12th overall. He's a running back, blah, blah, blah. That man's a beast. Brad Holmes knew he was a beast. Brad Holmes knew what he was doing. He knew it. And a lot of people were upset at that pick. A lot of people were upset at that pick. A lot of people were upset at the Sam Laporta pick. A lot of people were upset at the Jack Campbell pick. I always do that. I always say Dan Campbell, Jack Campbell. I mean, it's an easy thing to mess up. It's an easy thing, right? Same last name. Anyway, these guys that have come in, when you listen to their press conferences, you watch them play, you listen to what they say about themselves, they're telling you the absolute truth. DJ Reader came in here and he was talking about being a leader in the locker room if he can. Don't want to upset the apple cart. You just want to go in there and contribute to winning. You have to go in there and you have to put the work in, because nobody wants to hear all that rah-rah stuff if you aren't working. So he wants to be the guy that's working. He wants to be the guy that's improving. He wants to mentor the young guys. He wants to mentor Project Martin, aka. He wants to talk to Aleem McNeil and become his friend, buddy type of dudes, because they're both from Carolina. They're both Carolina guys. So that camaraderie, that fit, that culture, you can already see it just from listening to him speak. He wants to be a mentor, he wants to be a leader, and he wants to go ahead and be a friend or a compatriot of a guy who's also from his hometown. This is team building. I keep bringing up the Dream Team Eagles. I don't remember exactly what year it was. I probably should look it up. I think it was 2014. Dream Team Eagles, they just went and got everybody, right? They went and got everybody. And that's what Vince Young was saying. Oh, it's like Dream Team. Well, they dreamed of an 8-8 season and missing the playoffs. That's what happened. So it's not all about the big names that you go and you grab this guy and you go and you grab that guy. This isn't Madden. As far as what the Bears have done, we don't really know what type of fit that these players have. They went and they got Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has been injured quite a lot recently. I think he'll be 32 next season. And again, I'll never say that 30 or 31, 32 is old. But in football years, it's considered old. But it's also considered older when you have a bunch of injuries that have been piling up. And that's what has happened to Keenan Allen. He's had a bunch of injuries that have been piling up. He has been a dog. He has tormented the Detroit Lions. He has some crazy stat line against the Detroit Lions. In the games that he's played against us, he averages like 11 catches for 145.6 yards per game. Fantastic. But what happened when he played Carlton Davis? Carlton Davis shut him down. And go look at the tape. It's there. Carlton Davis shut him down. What does Carlton Davis say about himself? He went in that press conference and he said, "You are getting a shutdown corner. I am going to take one side of the field and make it unavailable because that's what I do." This is the kind of confidence that you want a cornerback to have. You want a cornerback who is comfortable on an island, especially in our scheme. AG likes to play man. He likes to put his cornerbacks on an island. He doesn't really like to play zone team building. He's a fit for our team. He's a fit for our culture. He's a fit for our scheme. So what happens when you put a player in the right culture and the right scheme? They are able to flourish. They're able to do well. They're able to do their job. Just think about yourself. If you go to a workplace and they don't have the right culture, you don't really want to be there. You don't want to flourish. You don't want to do your job. You don't really care. So now when you go to a place that has a great workplace culture, you might even like getting out of bed early and going to work. That just might happen because that's the situation that you are in. So these guys are coming into this situation. You've got a guy like Amik Robinson. Amik Robinson, of course, is considered undersized at 5'9", and I always find it funny that 5'9" is now considered undersized. You know, when the Richard Sherman, when the Richard Shermans of the world came out, 6'2", 6'3", that was like tall for a corner. And then people were like, I don't know, can you have, you know, a big corner like that? Blah, 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 blah. Can they turn their hips? You know, what's their footwork like? You know, can they deal with the smaller, shiftier receivers? And now it's like really in vogue. So someone who's 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" is like now the perfect cornerback size. And, you know, these things go in trends. But Amik Robinson is a dog. If you go watch his film, if you go watch his highlights, you can find an all 22 film breakdown of his on YouTube. Look at the game when he sealed the game against the Packers, and he got beat, but he had that makeup speed, and he jumped and he turned and he hung in the air and picked that ball off in front of Christian Watson. He's not afraid. Look at the thing with Rashee Rice when he just dismantled him at the line of scrimmage and knocked him on his behind. And he had no choice but to get up and take that back to the huddle with him. He told him he was too small. He's 5'9". Rashee Rice is about 6'1". He told him he's too small. He said, "You're too small." After he just had dispatched of him and put him in the dirt. These are the kind of players that you want. These are the kind of players that you need on your team. We may be looking at someone who will have a much bigger role in the secondary than any of us think. He may be able to push the likes of Cam Sutton for playing time. He may be able to relegate someone like Cam Sutton to depth. Maybe, maybe not. But that's the kind of depth player that you want on the team. Someone that could actually push your starter. He just may not have a few things that the starter has. So if he can push your starter to get better and to be better, to make sure that he keeps his job, guess what happens if your starter goes down? That guy that was pushing him is now in there. See, it's a perfect type of situation. It's like a perfect storm. We complained last year because we didn't have depth. Now we have depth that is starting level depth. So instead of having practice squad level depth or CFL level depth, now we have starter level depth. I think Brad Holmes is cooking. I think Brad Holmes is doing exactly what Brad Holmes needs to do. So I have the utmost confidence in Brad Holmes. I have the utmost confidence in his team building abilities. Now, Louis Riddick, as I said before, as I mentioned him before, we all know Louis Riddick. He's a commentator of Monday Night Football. You know, he's a football analyst for ESPN. He has been consistently, year in, year out, mentioned among top candidates to get a GM job. And I think if he wants to leave the TV booth and really be a GM, some team will hire him. And he's high on the Lions. He's high on the Lions. He admires what Brad Holmes has been doing. You know, so us fans, we always want the sexy name. But that's not the way that you win football games. That's just not the way that you win football games. There have been a lot of teams that have won free agency that have not won playoff games, or they haven't won the regular season, or so on and so forth. It happens that way. But there's been a lot of teams that make under the radar signings. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. What are they doing in free agency? What big names are they adding? Were you going to say Chris Jones? Chris Jones was already on their team. They just secured him. They gave him his $32 million. They gave it to him. That's money that he earned. It wasn't a free agency signing. He was an integral part of their team, and they just made sure that he stayed there, that he didn't go anywhere else. That's a great move, but it's expected. If you let Chris Jones walk and let him go get paid elsewhere, what are you doing? Who are you bringing in? They did that last year with, I think it was Ronnie Stanley. They let him walk, and then they replaced him with Jawan Jones, who was like the most penalized offensive lineman in the league this year. But hey, it didn't hurt too much because they won a Super Bowl. But these guys, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones, are like the pillars of their team. They're the pillars. Wouldn't you expect for them to re-sign them? Like, exactly what else are they doing? They've been very quiet in free agency because they won the Super Bowl. They don't have to do too much. We were minutes away from the Super Bowl. We just needed to fill some holes. We needed better depth. We needed to get these guys in the building that we got in the building. So if you're not a fan of the moves, hey, you're not a fan of the moves. But I trust Brad Holmes, and I'm going to continue to trust Brad Holmes until Brad Holmes shows me that I shouldn't trust him. Just like Jared Goff. I was not a Jared Goff guy. I used to post videos on TikTok all the time. I said stuff like Jared Goff he's a great guy, but he can't be the starter on my team. Because in year one, Jared Goff was awful. In year two, he did not start off well, but we know what happened in year two. We had that magical run where we won the last 8 out of the last 10 games, and he looked so much better. And he had that streak of interceptions, or, not throwing any interceptions, which, was snapped early this year. But he has improved leaps and bounds since he got here. And I'm not going to poo-poo that. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say, hey, get him out of here. Let's get Hendon Hooker in. I mean, we all want to see what Hendon Hooker can do, because you're like, well, Brad drafted him in the 3rd round, and he was on his way to winning the Heisman before he got injured. And you want to see naturally what he can do. But it's, again, Jared's team right now. And I support Jared as the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. Jared, as the quarterback of the Detroit Lions, has done something that I did not see Matthew Stafford do. Win playoff games. Not a game. Games. Again, it's all about fit. Does Matthew Stafford have a bigger arm than Jared Goff? Yes. Much bigger. He's a gunslinger. He can fit the ball in tight spaces. He can do his arm talent is tremendous. But he never won anything in Detroit. And that's just the way it is. So Jared Goff, in 3 years in Detroit, has won more playoff games than Matthew Stafford 12 years in Detroit. It's about fit. That's all it's about. It's about the fit. Jared Goff is a perfect fit for this team. And by the way, Jared Goff is entering year number 3 with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was on the staff year 1. So they had a relationship. He wasn't the offensive coordinator, but he's familiar with Ben Johnson for 3 years. And before in his career, that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all. He was always having different, I think it was something wild. Like every year he had a different offensive coordinator. He started off with Jeff Fisher, and you know the story. So that is what that is. Hopefully we continue to make moves, but with the flexibility that we have with these moves that we've made, I've been on record. I want Clowney. That's just a guy that I've always admired, since I'm a Michigan fan, but he decapitated that Vincent Smith in the backfield. We all know that. And I was like, dang, I want that guy on my team. I want him on my team. And I still want him on my team. He can still play at a high level. And there are other moves that we can make. Flexibility in the draft. As I said, we could take a receiver at 29, and I would not be upset. Give me Xavier Legette. Give me DK Metcalf Jr. Give me DK's doppelganger. And let's tear this thing up. Trade up, get a Jared Verse. Trade up, get a guy that Brad likes. Whatever the case may be, I'm cool with it because I see how this team is being built, and I see that Brad Holmes has stuck to the plan, and he will continue to stick to his plan. What does he do in the draft? He gives us that down Holmes cooking. And that's all the time we have for today. As always, subscribe, share, be the type of friend that tells another friend about what's going on here, about these experiences that you're having in this kitchen. We're cooking up every day, Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern. As always, until next time, peace.